Mark, I think it's fair to say 2021-22 has been a roller coaster season for the Panthers. What are your general thoughts on it so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good word to describe it. A bit of a roller coaster. Definitely some highs and lows. Obviously, some changes as well. That's made it interesting. But there's been some good in there as well. So it's tough this time of year. You just kind of can't really focus on what's happened. You're more looking forward to finishing the season off right.
And you mentioned finish up the season off right, and you still have a chance to do that with one trophy to go for. But when you've played at Sheffield, you played at Nottingham, you played at high end. When you play at a club with the stature of Nottingham, at the stature of the Nottingham Panthers, when you look at fourth place, isn't where the Panthers should be, is it, sort of thing?
No, I think we wanted to, obviously, at the start of the year, that should be the plan and always be the plan, to compete for the championship. And it didn't happen. So where do you go from there? I don't think you hang your head. I think you got to try and find something to play for. And like you said, we still have a trophy in mind to play for.
And Panthers came into this season, flying high on the back of 2019-20. After October in that season, we were the best team in the league. Finished second in the Continental Cup. Who knows what happened in that running when that Belfast weekend got cancelled? And then you go into the Elite Series and win that. So there was a lot of expectations coming into this season. If you had to try and pinpoint what's not quite worked this year on the back of that, what would you say it would be?
It'd be tough to exactly pinpoint it to one thing, but it's just more of that, having that winning mentality consistently. That's what gets you the championships, especially in this league. League standings are where it's at, so you can't have a bad month. You have to find a way to be competitive, whether it be long travel or for us going, say, up to Scotland or whatever. You got to find a way to get those wins, and then also just have to get the job done. You can't lose too many against the other top teams that are competing for it. So I think there we just didn't have that killer instinct, or it took us too long to get there, I guess.
And you've won winning championships in ice hockey is hard. Not many people get to do it. You've done it quite a few times. How do you try and instill that into a locker room?
It can be challenging. I think, but it goes back to what I just kind of said. It's just that understanding. It's the little details that sometimes make the difference, and the details that don't necessarily show up on the score sheet that can make the difference. And you just have to have a buy-in from absolutely every single player in order to get there.
And then it's not making excuses to say that losing guys like Matheson, Kevin, and Steve Lee for such long periods of time, that's had a detrimental effect on the team. When you lose guys who are meant to be your top point scorers, your top goal scorers, it's next man up, but they bring things to the team that can't be replaced, don't they?
Yeah, I think injuries, it's a fact. They can definitely hurt you. All those guys for sure would have helped us throughout the year if I hadn't been gone for so long. But again, like you said, you can't use it as an excuse. When they're gone, that's professional hockey, professional sports in general. Injuries happen, so it gives a chance for other guys to step up, and that's what we have to do.
And then when you lose, you're the captaincy in Nottingham this year, and years prior has been decided by a team vote. So Steve Lee was named team captain based on a team vote. How hard is it to lose the guy who's voted as the team captain? Who's the on-ice leader, the locker room leader? Steve hasn't played since October 17th. It can't be easy to lose a guy like that.
No, and you lose a strong voice in the locker room. So definitely miss him on ice, but also off the ice with managing. Like we talked about, the highs and lows. It's just nice to have that experience, and obviously, guys have trust to be able to vote him to be that guy. So yes, for sure, it's a loss.
And obviously, December was a bit of a strange month. You went to Belfast, lost quite heavily. That's when Kevin got taken out of the game. You then came back, had the COVID break. 2 games against Sheffield didn't go to plan. Not the ideal opposition to coming up against after you've been put on an enforced break. And then, unfortunately, in January, Tim got dismissed, and you had to take over. Now, you were quite close to Tim. So how hard was that period for you?
Yeah, obviously it's I think challenging. You never want to see any teammate, for that matter, leave your team. It's just, it's a brutal part of the business we're in, for sure. So yeah, obviously both shocking and kind of tough to deal with initially, but and again, exactly, you can't necessarily hang your head for too long. It's a professional sport. You got to pick up and move on. And I actually thought, as a group, we did a pretty good job with that, because obviously, like you said, that was a downtime, the COVID break. Coming back, our game wasn't there. We weren't playing great, and then obviously to have that on top of everything, it was not the easiest situation to be in. And I thought I liked the way we initially handled that.
And then Guy comes to you and asks you, will you be the head coach for see out this season, sort of thing. You've done that in Sheffield before, you're the interim head coach for a couple of weeks before they brought in a new guy. How did you respond to that, when Guy came to you?
Like you said, I guess I've been there before a little bit, but also just, I guess, being that player coach role, you are a little bit closer to the coaching side of things and with running meetings and video and stuff like that. So it wasn't like completely foreign to me. I think had it would have been a lot more of an adjustment. But for sure, there's limitations to what you can do as a player coach, but there's some good leaders in the room as well that help out. And I think it's been from a coaching standpoint, a good opportunity.
You mentioned good opportunity there. As player assistant coach, now player coach, it's a different dynamic to being a head coach because you're still part of that locker room. How have you found that adjustment to be part of that, but also now it's your show, sort of thing?
Yeah, like I said, it's all about finding that balance because there's definitely, like I mentioned before, there's limitations. There's some things I would like to be able to do if I was just the head coach, but being a part of that room, I mean, they're your teammates, you care about them, and there are some tough situations to balance sometimes, but I think the best thing you can do is just go about your business, be upfront about it, and I trust what I'm preaching, so I think that hopefully comes across to the players as well.
And it's not telling tales out of school here. When you get that opportunity from Guy, that's exactly what it is. It's a showcase for you to show you can do, whether it's here or somewhere else. Is coaching something that you've thought about as, if anyone watches you play, you've still got plenty of game left, there's no doubt about that, but is coaching something you've always thought about or considered?
Probably definitely over the last 4 years thought more about it. That's why we've welcomed the opportunity to be on the coaching staff as well as playing, just because it's, it is, I don't think it's something you can jump right into. You do need that experience because there's certain things that you have to learn about, and it becomes a lot easier once you get better with the technical things, for instance, like video and stuff like that. Once you get that under control, it's that becomes quite easy, and then you can really focus a lot of your energy onto various other jobs that come with being a head coach. So yeah, for sure, obviously it's very much interests me.
What is it about it that interests? Is it the developing of the players? Is it the tactical side of the game? What part about coaching gets Mark Matheson's juices flowing?
Probably more of like the system play and just seeing it all come together. Everyone understanding those little details, because the game's so fast that's really nowadays what makes a difference. There's no one system's the best or whatever. It's all about how you communicate that to the team and getting your team to buy into that makes the difference.
And obviously you were in the locker room, you were playing when you still playing, but you were in the locker room when things weren't going great. So when you did get the reins, what was one of the first things you wanted to implement to try and steady the ship, sort of thing?
Well, I think at that point the biggest thing, like you said, you're so down, like coming in there and getting on top of that and pushing the team and throw it down, I don't think was the right decision. So it was more of like fresh start, which can happen from situations like that. But to kind of forget about at that point, don't keep dwelling on the fact that we are where we were in the standings and that the championship was kind of out of reach. It's more about how are we going to make the best of this 4 months, and that was kind of my message.
I think it's common consensus amongst the fan base that since then the team has been a lot more entertaining to watch. Do you think that feeds in with them having fun and enjoying coming here, sort of thing?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I think confidence is a big thing, right? I think if you have a confident team or a confident player, they're going to reach their potential. You could be the most skilled player in the world, but if you don't have confidence, that'll affect your game. So I think that definitely has something to do with it.
And then once you took over, you got off to a really hot start. You won 4 in a row, took points in 5 out of 6, or 5 out of 5 because there was overtime loss in Dundee. Then those little problems started to come back again.
Yeah. We
went down to Cardiff on February 12th, and it all kind of came to a head there. Whereas I think we spoke about it on the day after when we beat Cardiff. The team had that come to Jesus meeting. Just how important was that for what we're seeing now?
That was very, very important. I mean, if you look at the positive side of that, it's the team as a group recognizing that wasn't good enough and that can't continue. So for me, I try and always look at the positive side, that you have a team that at least understands that it's good enough. Our struggle is understanding how we get ourselves out of that so we don't have those games again. And that's probably been our biggest struggle, I would say, knowing how to play like game in and game out. Just how the littlest situation can suddenly, turn the game around. But again, that's what makes it enjoyable, I guess, from the coaching standpoint. the teaching, and so hopefully moving forward, that's been our whole kind of philosophy the last month and a bit. Each game is going to intensify as we get closer to playoffs, and we want to hold on to the spot we're in and build towards giving ourselves an opportunity to play for another trophy.
That must be very satisfying when you see something that's gone wrong. You then go and speak to the relevant people, and then they fix it the next game. That must be one of the most satisfying parts of it all.
Yeah, I guess for sure. Something from maybe the coaching standpoint that you don't get to experience. It's also satisfying as a player, right? When everyone is doing their job, and it actually becomes an easier game to play, and then more enjoyable, which leads to better play as well.
And since that team meeting, everyone got to air their grievances, sort of thing. It hasn't been perfect, but things have generally been better. There have been bumps on the road. But why do you think that's what it took to turn things around?
I don't know. It's maybe one of those concepts where you learn more from when things don't go well than from when things go right. A lot of teams go through it. It's just one of those things where you get so down that you have to come together as a team to get yourself out. No one individual is going to get us out of that hole. So a lot of times that's kind of what can happen when you look each other in the eye and say, okay, I'll be there. I'm going to just start doing my job. I'll be better. And then collectively, as a group, we'd be better.
And I mentioned the bumps in the road. There were there were only like three real, what you consider big bumps. There was the 5-0 in Coventry, there was the 7-3 here against Sheffield, and there was the 7-4 at Manchester. Then the day after that 7-4, we came back here and beat Manchester 5-2. And when I spoke to you after the game, you said a very poignant thing in the interview. You said, how many times are you going to get it wrong before you get it right? How frustrated were you with that? Because that Manchester is where we came back from behind from 2-0, fought back, then held on to the lead, didn't slip into those bad habits. But you must have been really frustrated at that point.
Yeah, and I think for me, for sure I was. And then also just as a group, I think, you could see the frustration. I mean, that's, I guess, what's the most frustrating part. At this point in the season, you know what you're supposed to do, for sure, when it comes to team systems. So yeah, very frustrating when you still have those mental lapses. And again, it's not because anyone wants to screw up or make those mistakes. It's just frustrating because they keep happening.
And then after that, you've overseen wins over Sheffield and Belfast. We've shown we can compete with these teams. Like, if you look at the start of the season to now, us against Belfast, it's a completely different matchup. We went over there and beat them the other day. And then, I know I've said it to you a lot lately, I've said it in a lot of interviews with guys, but it's important not just for the fans, but for the players themselves to realise they can not just compete with those guys, but they can also beat them.
Yeah, I think it's been more enjoyable to be what I would call more competitive with those teams. Obviously, it has been nice to get the result, but I mean, there's a reason why those two teams are competing for the championship. So there's still definitely things to improve upon, even off the victories of things we can do. I guess that's my biggest thing. With our group is if we win a couple games, sometimes your foot comes off the gas a little bit. Which with our particular group we've learned doesn't matter who our opponent is, we have to play the same way.
And I'm guessing that was the case this weekend in Belfast. You win on Friday, then you go into that Saturday game, and whilst it wasn't anything like what happened in Cardiff, there were people stayed in that locker room a long time after the game. You kept guys back to say things. As much as you can, what did you take us inside there, and what did you say to the team in that moment? Because there was obviously disappointment in the way we came out in that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a guys in the leadership group that stepped up and said some things as well, and just the fact that we can't just be satisfied with winning that one game. The way we came back. Granted, again, Belfast, very good team, but just our starts. That start was not very good, and then we've talked about that time and time again, and then just the way we played. I didn't think we applied enough pressure and. So there's just that frustration level and understanding that because when we went into that weekend thinking, let's use this as prep for our playoffs where, you play two games back to back and, had that been the playoffs, we would have lost. So that's the harsh reality of it. As we get going here, that's still not good enough as much as it's a good win to follow it up with the result the next night, when it got the job done. So it was more of just a recognition of that, of let's bring that intensity to our practice a bit more and really understand the situation we're in.
And you got back to practice today after Belfast. Did you see the intensity you wanted to out there today?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good practice actually. We obviously missing a few bodies still, which can make it difficult for practice sometimes. But We're competitive. Still some things to improve upon, but overall, on a day like this, you just want to get the work in, and then we'll start to build towards facing the teams we are this weekend and get more situational play in the next couple of days.
Then obviously you mentioned missing a couple of guys. Massimo's working his way back steadily but surely. Ollie could be a bit of a different story. We'll have some news about him later today. But how hard is it to replace a guy like Ollie Beckford, who plays in every situation?
Oh yeah, big hole in our lineup for sure. A guy that you can rely on to work hard every night, and he does. He's been this year. We've been playing every situation, so it's unfortunate. I feel for him, and we're fingers crossed for a speedy recovery.
And you mentioned a minute ago, like that weekend in Belfast was good practice for the playoffs. Back to back against the same team. Every game now is leading up to that. Cause it's looking like we're going to end up against Dundee or Glasgow. Those kind of teams in the playoffs. Every game now is a chance to work on something and to get ready for that playoff series now, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, also too, we need to continue to get results. Like nothing's for sure. And if you looked at the standings, even, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, really even 8th, I guess, it's all up for grabs. So, not only work on things, but also we got to play well. It's not just necessarily go out there and we'll try this time. It's more of a, hey, we need to continue to button down our system and make sure that we are executing like we should.
And if the Panthers are going to end the season on a high in the playoffs, like we said right at the start, there's one trophy left to play for now. What's it going to take for the Panthers to lift that playoff trophy in this building come May 1st, I think it is?
Well, it's going to take every guy in that locker room for sure. And it's going to take a lot of mental. The hard work's with this group has been there for the most part, and everyone wants to do well. It's more of like almost working smart rather than working hard and being mentally dialed into our team system, not going off on your own page. If we can do that and get through this first round, for sure, that's going to be the main focus. And then obviously, chances are you're going to be playing some very good teams in that final weekend and a one-off game, which is exciting, but also know that it intensifies every situational play in that game, because that can be the difference. If we can manage that well, then I feel like we do have a very good chance of competing in that championship game.
And then with us heading into this final month of the season now, what is the message to the team and the fans almost going into this final month?
Well, I feel like we've hit it pretty good, like on some of the questions you've asked. Just that. We have been in better form. Again, we don't take our foot off the gas. There's definitely things we can improve on, and I think it would be silly of us to just assume that our spot's a given and we're just going to go out there and waste time until we get to the playoffs. But no, I think it's going to be more of a let's try and just really sharpen up our game, so it's just when we are rolling and peaking at the right time come that first round of playoffs.
And then we said right at the start, this has been a roller coaster of the season. The fans have been on that roller coaster with us. We've got 4 more regular season games at home to put some smiles on some faces now.
Yeah, I think looking forward to that as well. And obviously, playing at home, it's a bit more comfortable than playing on the road. So it gives us even a better, advantage of making sure that we are all feeling good about our group and putting some wins on the table. So, because I've mentioned it before, you can't just switch it on. You can't be like, okay, well, it's playoffs, I'm going to go now. It doesn't happen that way in professional sports anyway. So, that's going to be our game plan.
And another good test this weekend, away to Sheffield, at home to Coventry, 2 rivalry games.
Yeah, exactly. And again, just back-to-back games. So you got to put in good performances in both those games.
Right, thanks, Mark.
All right, cheers.